This guide is about Oberon. He has been in this game for almost a decade, and not surprisingly, I don't see him that often. In this spotlight, I thought I would take a closer look at his abilities and eventually show you the build I am using. After all the testing I've done and everything I've tried, I have to say that he is surprisingly very good. His main blueprint can be bought straight from the market. This is the easy part. His components can be acquired from Empyrean missions, also known as Railjack, specifically Earth and Saturn missions that have some type of enemy base. This is the hard part. You can also get his prime version. His passive ability provides animal companions with 25% of Oberon's health, shields and armor. If you are using Link mods on companions, this ability is exactly like those mods but worse. Companions also get one instant revive per mission. I'm not really happy about this passive. I don't mind having a weird cat next to me all the time, but if it gets downed, it will get back up. I don't find this to be a very big problem, so I find this ability to be pretty useless. His first ability is Smite. This is a simple single target, yet also somehow multiple target ability. When cast, you deal damage to a target and then a bunch of balls spawn that seek out enemies. On top of fixed damage, these balls also deal a percentage of the enemy's health as damage. This health damage is limited to 35% of the enemy's health. The second ability is Hallowed Ground. Oberon marks the area in front of him, and enemies standing in the area take damage. This damage can also apply the radiation status effect. While standing in the marked area, Oberon and his allies are completely immune to status effects. Keep in mind that this ability will also protect you from being knocked down. His third ability is Renewal. This is the ability that makes Oberon a support frame. This ability heals all allies around Oberon. There is an initial heal, and after that, the squad will regenerate health each second as long as this ability is channeled. The best part of this ability is that even though initial cast is limited by the range, over the time heal is not. Once the allies have the buff, they can move away as far as possible and they will still receive healing as long as Oberon is channeling the ability. This ability will also slow the bleed out timer. If Oberon or his allies pass through the Hallowed Ground while buffed, they will also gain extra armor. Just like the over the time healing, once you have the armor, you cannot lose it as long as Oberon is channeling Renewal. The last ability is Reckoning. This is an area of effect damage ability. If an enemy is eliminated with this ability, they have a chance to drop a health orb. If they are not eliminated, they are blinded for a duration. Just like all of his damaging abilities, this one can also apply the radiation status effect. If the enemies are standing on Hallowed Ground, this ability will also remove a portion of their armor. With his abilities explained, I will finally move on to the build. As I was exploring different builds and options, one thing became pretty clear to me. No matter what mods I used, almost every build I came up with had similar performance. I wanted to explore damage output, so I put in a lot of ability strength. With high ability strength, I was able to heal more and the amount of armor I received kept me alive. On the other hand, I also wanted to see if I could turn Oberon into a tank. As I added more defensive mods, my healing decreased, but I took much less damage. During these experiments, I also realized that going for damage isn't really an option. Yes, you can add a lot of strength and some augments, but damage just isn't there. So, what I settled on was a strong healing build with amazing survivability. I am using Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude and Archon Intensify. High ability strength increases healing output, armor and also allows me to completely armor strip enemies. For the Aura mod, I have Growing Power, and for the Exilus, I am using Primed Sure-Footed. I understand that primed mods aren't easy to come by for everyone, especially Sure-Footed. This mod can be replaced with Preparation, Handspring or Power Drift. For energy recovery, I have Hunter Adrenaline and Primed Flow. Hunter Adrenaline works very well with renewal. To improve my survivability, I have Steel Fiber, Quick Thinking and Adaptation. For the arcanes, I have Molt Reconstruct and Molt Augmented. Molt Reconstruct can be replaced with Arcane Energize or Arcane Guardian. I will be casting abilities somewhat often and I find extra healing helpful. The Archon shards I'm using are 5 blue ones. I find extra health and armor more useful than ability strength. If you do not have any of these mods, I also made a simpler version. As I was testing this build, I was actually surprised that with this build you can take on Steel Path pretty easily. I was able to complete a few missions without much trouble, but after a while I realized that there was a problem with this build. The idea behind the build is simple. I act as the most enticing piñata in the entire universe. While suffering from internal bleeding, I also gain energy. I then use this energy to fix my internal issues. If I see the gates of heaven, Quick Thinking returns me to grim reality and the cycle repeats until I go insane. On paper this sounds great, but sometimes Quick Thinking doesn't work as presented. It works very well, but then after some time it says that I don't have any more lives left and it just stops working. I think this happens because fatal damage is too much and I don't have enough energy to cover it. I don't fully understand it, but the reality is that I'm occasionally sent to heaven and I don't like that. There is a simple solution to this problem. Helmet exists in this game and there is an ability that can really elevate Oberon to the next level. That ability is Mirage's Eclipse, specifically the 75% damage reduction part. Once you subsume this on Oberon, you won't be seeing angels anytime soon. The ability I chose to replace is Smite. This ability is the odd one out because removing it won't affect any synergies or combos. I ran this build through solo Netracel missions. I have also done a couple of higher level Steel Path missions. If this doesn't convince you that this build is strong, I don't think anything will. Gameplay is pretty simple. Just keep your Eclipse and Renewal active all the time and make sure you are getting extra armor. So, my final thoughts on Oberon. I think he is very underrated. He is a very strong tank and even though I wouldn't really call him the strong support, he is still decent with his heals. The armor he provides gives you around 65% damage reduction. There is also the armor stripping, which is always useful. I've tried going for full damage, but that front is just not working. Don't get me wrong, damage is there, but when I'm looking for damage I want something that can handle Steel Path enemies, and he's just not built for that. I've experimented with helmet abilities and different builds. I also tried orange shards with extra radiation damage, and I'm just not happy with the results. If you like his playstyle, you should definitely give him a try. Let me know how do you play Oberon, and as always, what do you think about this?